Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. For today's video, I've prepared 50 different conversation questions related to 10 different topics, and all of them include an English idiom or expression. So I want you to sit back and relax while you listen to me using 50 English idioms in conversation. So, are you ready? Let's get started. The first subtopic is all related to life and routines. And let me begin with the first question, which is, are you more of an early bird or a night owl? And what does a typical day look like for you? Well, I'd say that if anything, I'm more of an early bird than a night owl because I like waking up early and feeling like I'm being productive with my day. And usually at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, I'm exhausted, I'm knackered, I'm shattered. So my eyes are already closing and I need to go to bed. So yeah, I'd say I am 100% more of an early bird than a night owl. And a typical day, well, it depends, but I'd say usually I wake up at 7-ish, then I have a shower, a coffee, I start teaching, and I have little breaks between my classes to record videos, edit videos, go for a run, go for a walk. And then when I finish work at 8 or 9-ish in the evening, that's when I would watch something on the sofa and sit back and try just to relax and not think about any kind of work. So that is a typical day in my life. How about the second question, which is, when life gets too busy, how do you stop things from getting on top of you? And if something gets on top of you, essentially it overwhelms you. It stresses you out. So I'd say that when my life gets too busy, what I do to prevent things getting on top of me is that I will go out for a walk. I will try not to look at my phone, and I'll try to get a good night's sleep because I think that's fundamental. But I'd say above all, the most important thing and most meaningful thing that I do is, well, walking and being outside, because I think fresh air and nature really can heal you. It can cure you in one way or another. So yeah, how about you? What do you do? Now, question number 3. Do you prefer to go with the flow or stick to a strict routine? Now, I think I'm not very good at going with the flow when it comes to my normal routine. I'm good at going with the flow when it comes to social plans or holiday plans because I don't like to have a very strict schedule. But with work, I'm recording this between Christmas and New Year's. And even though I'm not working a lot this week, I'm still setting an alarm and waking up at the same time, more or less every day. And I'm here recording a video. So maybe I'm a workaholic, but I do like to stick to a strict routine. It keeps me sane and it keeps me, I don't know, satisfied and calm. Because if I don't have a routine, everything goes crazy. My life and organization goes out of the window. So that's what I would say. Now, number 4. What small habit helps you start the day on the right foot? So if you start on the right foot, you start the day in a good way. Now, maybe I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's coffee. So having a coffee as soon as I wake up is a habit that helps me start the day on the right foot. Because if I don't have a coffee, I don't feel as efficient, as awake, as sociable and ready to speak. So I need a coffee as soon as I wake up, and maybe another one like a few minutes or a few hours later. So coffee is the habit that keeps me productive and starting on the right foot. I'm recording this at 11 o'clock and I've already had 2 big coffees. So, I'm ready to go. Okay, number 5. When was the last time your routine was completely thrown off? And if you are thrown off or your routine is thrown off, it is disturbed. It becomes chaotic. So the last time that this happened, well, it was probably a couple of weeks ago because I went on a holiday to the north of Spain, to Asturias, and I went with some neighbors and friends. And it was really fun, but we were busy and we didn't sleep a lot because we had flights very, very early. So that meant that we were sleep deprived. So then it was very difficult to get back into the routine after that weekend because of the lack of sleep, all the socializing, all the eating and drinking. So my routine, at least momentarily, was thrown off. It was disturbed. Good. That is the first little topic. Now we're going to keep going. Moving on from life and routine to work and career. And the first question related to this topic is as follows. Do you see your job as a stepping stone or your final destination? And if something is a stepping stone, it is, let's say, a platform before you reach something else. Perhaps my first job as an English teacher was a stepping stone to becoming my own boss, because that was a necessary platform for me to take before moving on to something else. And I think that right now, this is my final destination in terms of work, of being a teacher, a business owner, a content creator. I don't foresee any changes in the near future. This is what I would like to continue doing in the short, medium, and long term. So hopefully I'm successful and I'll be able to do it. Because of course, you never know what's going to happen in the future. And maybe artificial intelligence takes over all of our jobs and I need to rethink my career. But right now, this is not a stepping stone. This is the final destination. Okay, the second question related to this. Have you ever felt stuck in a job with no room to grow? And yeah, I think I have, and I think this is something that everybody has probably been through at some point in their lives. And I think the first couple of teaching jobs that I had, I knew that there was no way of progressing. There was no way of getting a promotion. So what did I do? I didn't stay for very long. I stayed for 9 months or a year in total. So yeah, in my last couple of jobs, I did feel like there was some kind of career progression and there was the possibility for me to continue to learn. But my first couple of jobs, they were stepping stones in the right direction, but I knew there was no chance that I could grow and move forward. The third question related to career. What helps you stay on top of your workload? And if you stay on top of something, you are staying ahead, so then it doesn't catch up with you. And for me, the way that I stay on top of my workload is the fact that I'm always trying to do a lot of things when I don't need to do things. So I do a lot of work when I'm not teaching. Right now, I'm trying to get ahead of my content and my work. So then in January, when I'm busier with classes, I'll be able to stay on top of my workload. So sometimes I'll work on Saturday and Sunday, or I'll be working late into the night, so that then I have the possibility of taking a holiday or not worrying about missing a day of posting a video because I've already got ahead in the past. So that's, let's say, my mission and my workflow. I do a lot of work when I'm not busy. So then when I am busy, I don't fall behind my schedule. I think it's a good tactic. You know, I'll give myself a pat on the back because so far, so good. Now, the fourth question. Would you rather play it safe at work or take risks? This depends on your outlook. Personally, I'm a risk taker. I believe that it's necessary to take risks, and I think you're more likely to regret what you didn't do than regret the things that you did. What do I mean by this? Basically, I'm saying that you should take risks. Everybody should take risks as long as they are calculated risks, because that way you grow, you go out of your comfort zone, you discover where your limits are, and it's an opportunity to learn. So I think there are times when it's a good idea to play it safe. For example, if you are about to have a child and you know you need stability, in that case, for sure, play it safe. But if you're ambitious, I would always advocate and advise taking risks. Risk it. Come on. Now, the fifth question related to work and career. Have you ever had to bite the bullet and make a difficult career decision? By the way, if you bite the bullet, you make a decision that you are maybe nervous about or afraid of, but you kind of know you have to do it. So 1 year ago, as I've told you on this channel, I bit the bullet and I made the decision to quit my last job. And of course, I was considering my options, weighing up my options for months before I actually did it. But I thought in the end, I'm not going to play it safe. I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to bite the bullet. And thank God I did. Thank goodness I took that risk, because so far it's paid off. That bravery I had has paid off. The next section, the third section, it is related to money and spending, one of my favorite topics. So, the first question related to this. Are you good at saving, or does money tend to burn a hole in your pocket? I think you can guess the meaning. If the money burns a hole in your pocket, it means that you're spending all of your money. Maybe you're going into debt because you keep splashing the cash. And I'm good at saving. I have to admit, I'm very good at saving because I like to see that I'm able to save money every month, because I want to think that in the future, I don't need to depend on a state pension. So I know I need to save money every month and reinvest it in property or the stock market. So then money makes money. If you have more money and you're able to save it, then in the future, in the long term, you'll be able to get more and more profit from the money that you are saving. So of course, I spend money where necessary, but I do always try to meet a specific goal of how much I want to save every single month. And so far, so good. The second question. What's something you bought recently that was worth every penny? If something is worth every penny, it is worth the money, 100%. And I haven't bought a lot of things recently, but for Christmas, I got my nephew some books, sticker books. He's 2 years old, and the books were designed to help him maybe learn a little bit of Spanish. Because, of course, he's English, but my fiance is Spanish. So, with that in mind, I would like my nephew to pick up some Spanish words and be able to learn Spanish whilst he's a child. And it seems like he's into the books, that he's passionate about it. So hopefully, as he gets older, he will continue to play with Spanish games, Spanish sticker books, and that way he'll be able to communicate with my in-laws in Spanish. That would be the dream. So whether it will happen is a different question. But so far, those books are worth every penny. It helps that they were quite cheap as well. They were a bargain. The next question. Do you usually live within your means, or do you stretch your budget? As I was mentioning earlier, I like saving and I'm good at saving. So for sure, I always live within my means. I never spend more money than I earn. Never, ever. Because then I feel guilty if I do it. So the only scenarios when I'm going to stretch my budget is, for example, if I have to pay for a holiday or the wedding, then temporarily I will stretch my budget, but I'll know that I then need to make up for it in the future. The fourth question. Have you ever tried to cut back on unnecessary spending? And remember that cut back on or cut down on means to reduce. So, yes, I would say that I've been trying to cut back on unnecessary spending recently. I stopped going to the gym, so therefore I stopped paying that subscription. I also had a Belgian and Spanish SIM card. I cancelled the Belgian one because it was pointless. And then I tried to go to cheaper supermarkets like Lidl or Aldi instead of going to Carrefour. So all of these are little things, but in theory, they will make a big difference if you do them over a long period of time. So yeah, I've been successful in cutting back on unnecessary spending recently. Go me. And the last question related to money is talking about money still a bit of a taboo where you live? I was speaking to some students about this topic, and it's interesting that I feel like most people don't mind speaking about money, but they do mind speaking about how much they earn. So I never ask my friends how much they earn, and they never ask me, but I'd be quite happy talking about it. And I think it's an interesting thing to discuss. But for many people around the world, it is a bit of a taboo topic. People don't want to speak about money, even though it's such an integral part of life. Money is, unfortunately, everything. It gets you to places where you wouldn't be able to be if you didn't have money. So, yeah, it is still a bit of a taboo topic, but I think that's changing. I think people are much more open to discussing these things nowadays. The next topic, the fourth topic, I believe, is relationships and friendships. And the first question is, do you usually hit it off with new people? Phrasal verb. If you hit it off with someone, you immediately establish a good connection. So, it depends. But I think most of the time when I meet someone new, we hit it off. Maybe we don't get on like a house on fire. Get on like a house of fire means to get on really, really, really well. But I think when I meet people, I usually get on with them. I usually hit it off with them. We might establish a friendship. I wouldn't say that we become best mates, but when I'm out, I can be quite sociable. despite the fact that then when I get home, I just want to chill out and not speak to anyone. But I think usually I do hit it off with people. And I'm like, hey mate, how are you? Yeah, good, good. Awesome. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. Oh, we should get together another time in the future. And then I get lazy. But yeah, I do usually hit it off with new people. The second question: what qualities help friendships stand the test of time? And this is to last or endure over a long period of time. So, I think trust is a quality that is necessary. I think for the same reason, honesty is something that's necessary. I think you have to stand by your friends in the good times and the bad. I think having things in common as well is very, very important to be able to have a long lasting relationship. And I don't mean just like hobbies in common, but also lived, shared experiences. So honesty, trust, being there for your friends, these are all things that will help your friendships or relationships stand the test of time. The third question: have you ever had to set boundaries with someone close to you? And if you set boundaries, you set your limits. But to be honest, I don't think so. I haven't had to do this before. But I will tell you that I've had people asking me about my classes in the past, and they might say, "Oh, Lewis, I love you. You're so good looking." And then they will ask if they can have classes with me. So there I will set my boundaries and say, whoa, it's not very professional. It's not very appropriate. If you want me to be your teacher, you shouldn't really be complimenting me like that. You know my situation. So in that scenario, yes, I set boundaries that if somebody is going to be a student of mine and we're going to have a professional relationship like that, then I expect them to be professional when they speak to me. I think it's normal. I think that should be expected all the time. But that's the only scenario, I think, where I do have to sometimes set boundaries as a difference between, let's say, a so-called influencer and a normal guy and teacher. Because, of course, they are two separate entities. Now, number 4. Do you prefer deep conversations or light-hearted chats? It depends who I'm speaking to, but I'd say most of the time I prefer light-hearted chats and easy topics. So I like speaking about football because at the end of the day, it's not that important. But then when it comes to speaking about big, serious issues like inequality, sexism, racism, then it can get a little bit, I don't know, sad, or it can get a little bit tense if you're speaking to friends or family like this. So I usually avoid conflict all of the time. So for that reason, I like speaking about light-hearted things, happy things and things that aren't so serious. Perhaps I'm a coward and I don't want to argue or have any discussions with other people. I just like an easy life. That's it. I just want an easy, stress-free life. Now, the last question related to relationships. How do you keep in touch without drifting apart? And if in a relationship you drift apart, we could also say grow apart. It essentially just means that the relationship becomes less close. You lose touch with this person. And there are obviously people that I have lost touch with, and we have drifted apart over time. For example, university friends. I lived with different university friends, and we kept in touch for a little bit after graduating. But then again, if I'm living in Spain or Belgium and they're still here in the UK and they're from a different town or city to me, then it's very hard to meet up and it's very hard to actually spend time with that person. So I think it's natural that you drift apart. It would be good, let's say, if I were able to meet up with them once per year, and that way we could keep the relationship alive. But, you know, adulthood happens. As we get older and you get married, have children, have different responsibilities, I think it's just a matter of time before you drift apart. Unfortunately, that is the way it is, I'm afraid. What about you? Do you agree with me or not? And let's keep going with travel and holidays, everybody's favorite topic, I believe. And the first question is, do you like to travel off the beaten track or visit famous places? If you do travel off the beaten track, it means that you go to uncommon or unvisited places, ones that aren't very well known. And I think usually I prefer to visit famous places because I have so many places on my list that I would love to see during my lifetime. And it's nice to maybe go on a little country escape in the countryside, in the mountains, or to an unusual country. And that way you could go off the beaten track. But usually it comes with more inconveniences because the travel connections aren't as good. Maybe the accommodation options aren't as good. So these are all the risks that you have to take when you are traveling off the beaten track. But hey, I'm not going to rule it out. I would love to go to strange, unusual countries in the future because it's more of an adventure. That way, perhaps it's more exciting as well. So watch this space. Maybe I'll go to a very unusual place this year. I don't know, but we'll see. The next question. What's the best trip you've ever taken? Hands down. And the phrase hands down means without a shadow of a doubt. Without a doubt. And the best trip that I've ever taken, hands down, was probably, I can't really say hands down because I'm not sure, but I think Thailand is amazing. And I was in Thailand for 3 weeks, island hopping, going from island to island, eating lots of curry. Everybody was very, very friendly, very sociable. And I was with my fiance, girlfriend at the time. And I'd love to go back because I think Southeast Asia is such a warm, welcoming, and wonderful place. So I'd say if I had to choose, Thailand was hands down the best trip I've ever taken. What about you? What's the best trip that you've ever taken? Now, the third question. When you travel, do you plan everything or play it by ear? And play it by ear is to improvise, to go with the flow, essentially. And when I travel, I'd say most of the time I play it by ear. I like to have a rough plan, a rough itinerary of how many days I'm going to stay in each place. I like to have my accommodation for that place. But other than that, I don't want to have every single hour and minute planned absolutely to a T, because there needs to be some room for a bit of improvisation and playing it by ear. For that reason, I don't like going on cruises or guided tours because I feel like it's too organized. And I like to be organized, as I mentioned, with my routine and my professional life, but with holidays, I want to go with the flow. I want to play it by ear, for sure. Next question. Have you ever had a holiday that didn't go according to plan? Hmm. I don't think I have, you know. I don't think I've ever had a holiday that didn't go according to plan. I've never had any nightmare holidays. There's only one moment that I sometimes have nightmares about, and this is when I was traveling around Asia. We were getting a little ferry, a boat from Bali to Java Island, and it was literally about a mile. So it wasn't very far at all, maybe a few miles, but you could see the land of Bali where we were, and you could see Java Island as well. So I was thinking, easy, no problem. So we got on the ferry, we got on the boat, and we had like lorries and cars also on the boat. It was very local, so there weren't many tourists who were getting the same ship. And the water was very choppy, very choppy. And I get a little bit seasick. And for some reason, it was like the engine wasn't working. So we were just like floating across this little stretch of sea. And you could see that the ship was swaying from side to side. And as it was swaying from side to side, the lorries that were attached and on the boat were also moving from side to side. So at that moment, I was thinking like, oh my God, I think I'm going to puke. I think I'm going to throw up. I can't handle it anymore. And it felt sometimes like I was about to fall off the edge of the boat. Other people weren't so worried, so it clearly wasn't such a big deal. But I'm a bit of a chicken when it comes to traveling and boats and planes. So that was one moment that didn't go according to plan, but it was only an hour or 2 hours, and then we were on land again. But yeah, I remember that like, oh, it was horrible. Absolutely a nightmare scenario. Now, my next question. Which destination is still on your bucket list? There are many destinations that are on my bucket list, but top of my bucket list are many South American countries. I think I'm going to go to Costa Rica for my honeymoon. I'd love to go to other places in Central America, such as Mexico, Panama, Guatemala, and then go down and do a tour of Colombia, Ecuador, Paraguay, Brazil, Chile. The list goes on and on. There are so many places on my bucket list. And from there, let's move on to the next topic, which is health and lifestyle. The first question. What do you do to blow off steam after a stressful day? And to blow off steam is like to release stress or anger. And after a stressful day, what I usually do to blow off steam is just sitting down and watching a series or watching football. But that's what I would do during the week. Then on a Friday, for example, I might go out with my friends and go for some drinks to blow off some steam. And that's what I'm doing a lot over Christmas because, you know, it is the season to be jolly. All right, the second question. Do you listen to your body or do you tend to push yourself too hard? I'd say I listen to my body. If I'm training and doing exercise and I'm running a lot and I can feel that I've got aches and pains and my legs are aching and they're sore, then I'll take a day off and I'll rest for a little bit. And the same thing happens with screen exposure or lack of sleep. A month ago, or maybe 6 weeks ago, I noticed that my eyes were a little bit bloodshot and I felt very tired when looking at the screen. So what I did was listen to my body and block some of my hours in my schedule because I could feel that I was burning out. So I stopped it and made sure that I had a couple of relaxing weeks before getting back into the routine. The third question, what healthy habit are you trying to stick to? Well, now in January, a healthy habit that I'm trying to stick to is eating vegetables and reducing my portion size, because I usually have huge portions and maybe I eat too much meat as well. So, what I'd like to stick to is having lots of green dishes and small dishes. So, I know I'm not going to be 100% full after every meal, but I know that it's enough. That way I can slim down a little bit in 2026. But it'll be difficult to stick to it because I love eating. Okay, the fourth question. Have you ever ignored a problem until it caught up with you? If something catches up with you, it catches you by surprise almost. Have I ever ignored a problem? Speaking about health. I don't know. I don't think so. But it's true that if I do feel a little bit sick or whatever, I ignore it because I'm a hypochondriac. I don't like to go to the doctors. I don't like to have a checkup. I should probably have a checkup this year because I haven't had one in a long time. And, well, after you turn 30, it is recommended that you get all of your body checked up and just to make sure that everything's working normally and running okay. So maybe in 2026, I'm going to go to the doctors and have a full checkup because I think it's overdue. So hopefully everything will be okay and they will give me a clean bill of health. They'll give me a green light and say, yes, Lewis, you are healthy. Good job. All right, the fifth question. What helps you keep a good work-life balance? Personally, I think my work-life balance is different to many people's because my job is also my hobby. So for that reason, in my scenario, I don't really believe in work-life balance because my hobby is also making videos and editing videos. So I'm in a privileged situation because of that. And it means that I don't get fed up of working. I don't get sick and tired of working so much. But I understand that for many people, if you don't actively enjoy your job, you need to set boundaries and make sure that you have enough time off and that you're not worrying about work when you're not actually being paid to work. So everybody's different. But for me, I enjoy my job. So I have a very good work-life balance, in my opinion. The next topic is learning and growth. So, what skill would you love to learn if you had the time and headspace? One skill I would love to learn, but I think it's never going to happen, is playing a musical instrument. I would love to learn to play the guitar or to sing. It's not my forte. It's not my strong suit. I'm not very good at rhythm. But if I had the time, energy, and I were able to prioritize it, I'd love to learn how to play the acoustic guitar or even the electric guitar, because I think it's an amazing skill and talent to learn. But I can't see it happening. Not anytime soon. Maybe when and if I retire. After that, next question. Do you believe people can change, or are habits hard to break? Now, these are kind of two questions. But first of all, yes, I believe people can change, for sure. I think people can change their habits and change their personality and change their behavior. But I do think that habits are hard to change and hard to break because you need a lot of willpower, and willpower is very difficult to find. And if you get into a habit of doing something, it's very hard to remove that habit. If we think about quitting smoking, many people struggle with this for years and years and years. And basically, I think it's just a test of your willpower and the motivation you have for quitting this habit, which is so difficult. Human beings, we are flawed. We have flaws, errors, defects. And that's why we can't, from one day to the next, click our fingers and change our habits. I wish it were that easy, but unfortunately, it isn't. The third question: when was the last time you stepped out of your comfort zone? The last time I stepped out of my comfort zone, which maybe has become a comfort zone, is recording in public. Just the other day, I was out with my cousin and my brother-in-law, and I prepared a script of phrases to say, "I will buy the drinks" in British English. And my cousin didn't want to join in the video, so that was fine. But he was recording me saying it in a busy pub in front of the bar. And now I'm getting used to it and I'm less afraid of it, but it's still outside of my comfort zone. So every time I record in public, I am going out of my comfort zone. And it's tough, but the more you do it, the more you get used to it, and the easier it becomes. Number 4, how do you usually deal with setbacks? And a setback is basically a problem. It's bad news. And the way that I deal with setbacks is by working harder, to be honest. Because you're always going to have setbacks and you're always going to have obstacles that you have to overcome in life. But I see them as an opportunity and a challenge to grow and see if you can become a better version of yourself by correcting whatever went wrong and trying to ensure that that setback doesn't repeat itself. So I think I'm quite competitive, and if something happens that I didn't want to happen, I will tell myself, "Lewis, you need to be better and work harder to ensure that that thing, whatever it may be, doesn't repeat itself." I think that's a good way of looking at life in general. But I'm no philosopher, trust me. And the 5th question: what lesson did you learn the hard way? I'd say that one lesson I learned the hard way was being on top of my admin and my finances, because I had to pay tax in Spain and in Belgium last year because of my own lack of knowledge about the system, because I didn't advise the Spanish government that I didn't live in Spain anymore. So I was still paying Social Security in Spain, and then I had to pay my taxes in Belgium. So it cost me a lot of money. So it pushed me, encouraged me to be on top of my finances a little bit more, because it's always been a nightmare for me. But now, knowing what is at stake, I think I'm getting better at it. That was my New Year's resolution of 2025, among others. And I think I stuck to it. I think so. The next topic is related to technology and social media. So, do you feel glued to your phone, or can you switch off easily? I definitely feel glued to my phone. Yeah, I'm addicted to my phone. I use my phone for everything. It's always in my hand or on the table. And I feel guilty for this, but it's also a work device. So when I'm on my phone, usually I'm doing things that I need to do and should be doing. But that does mean that I can't switch off easily. And sometimes I'll be refreshing Instagram or YouTube every few minutes, and I know that's unhealthy, and that is an unhealthy habit that I would like to cut down on. But it's much easier said than done. So yeah, I am glued to my phone. And related to that, the next question. Has social media ever become a time sink for you? And a time sink is a way of saying like a drain of your time. It takes up a lot of your time. And absolutely, social media has become a time sink. But that being said, usually I spend more time on social media making content or posting content than I do consuming content. So while I waste time on social media, I don't waste as much time as if I weren't posting content. Because a lot of my friends and family will just consume social media, whereas on the other hand, in my case, I am actually using it for my own benefit in most scenarios. So that's a little tick, a little positive. Now, the third question. Do you think technology makes life easier or adds pressure? I think 100%, hands down, technology makes life a lot easier. If you think about all the things that we can do nowadays, thanks to technology, that we couldn't do 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, the list is endless. Sending emails, speaking to family, calling via FaceTime. You can edit videos, you can do everything. Nowadays, technology is almost all encompassing. It covers everything. So it's a no-brainer, in my opinion, that tech actually makes your life way easier, loads easier, far easier. And the fourth question. Have you ever done a digital detox to clear your head? No, I haven't. I probably should. I don't know if it's possible, but I remember during the pandemic, I started doing a little bit of meditation using my phone. And I thought about maybe not going on social media for a period of time, but I didn't do it. And I know some people who have done this, and they'll maybe delete social media applications and they feel a lot better after a week because they've cleared their head. So it's an opportunity to recharge your batteries as well. But personally, I haven't done it, and I don't know if I will ever do it. But hey, it is what it is. And the last question. What app could you not do without? What app could you not live without? I'd say that the apps that I couldn't live without are the ones that I use every single day, which are Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I could probably live without TikTok because I only post videos there and I never actually engage. But all of these social networks, I don't think I could live without them, which is a sad reality. That's the case. Now we've got two more topics. The next one is culture and entertainment. So, what TV series had you hooked from the start? And a TV series that had me hooked from the start is The Office. In particular, despite being British, the US Office with Steve Carell. I think it is maybe the best series of all time, at least the best sitcom, the best comedy. Because it's so fun, it's so relatable, it's so enjoyable. Honestly, The Office, if you haven't already watched it, I would advise you to start watching it now. Start yesterday, because it just cracks you up. It makes you laugh. And you can always relate to it at the same time. But yeah, The Office is the one. Next, do you prefer films that make you think or help you switch off? I think I prefer films that help me switch off because watching series and films, this is my moment when maybe I don't look at my phone and I'll just be immersed in the story of Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings, these kind of things, where for a moment I can imagine that I was living in Middle Earth and I am Legolas and I am on top of a big elephant using my bow and arrow to try to hunt all of the orcs. So yeah, I think I'd rather watch a film to switch off and just not think. In fact, sometimes my fiance will ask me, "Oh, Lewis, what did he say?" And I'm like, I don't know, because I'm so switched off. All right, third question. Is there a song that instantly takes you back to a moment in your life? Yes. The Kooks, Seaside. If you don't know the Kooks, it's an indie band that were famous maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I remember listening to that song when my first girlfriend broke up with me. And for some reason, it'll always take me back to that sad moment. So the Kooks, Seaside, takes me back to when my first girlfriend broke up with me. The fourth question. Do you follow trends or do you march to the beat of your own drum? This idiom, march to the beat of your own drum, means basically do what you want when you want to do it. And you're kind of like a trendsetter rather than someone who follows trends. And I think, generally speaking, I march to the beat of my own drum. I don't like to be a sheep and follow fashion and what other people do. At least not anymore. Maybe I used to. When you're a teenager, you're easily influenced by other people and you want to fit in. But I think as you reach your mid to late 20s and beyond, you are your own person and you don't give a about what they think. So nowadays, I march to the beat of my own drum. And the fifth question, what type of content do you enjoy when you just want to kill time? The kind of content I love on YouTube, for example, is food-related content. I love seeing people making recipes or seeing people eating out in different places and talking about the food, partly because it makes me hungry, but I find such pleasure in food, looking at food, eating food, smelling food, thinking about food, that I could just kill hours and hours looking at food. And now I'm hungry. So let's move on to the 10th and final section, which is related to philosophy. So do you believe everything happens for a reason, or is that just wishful thinking? No, I don't think everything happens for a reason. Like, some things are random. Sometimes there is no logical reason why something happens. Like fate, I don't know if it exists or not, or at least I like to think that you make your own fate. So by working hard, by being a good person, by being friendly and nice to people, karma will come around. So then you will enjoy some privileges in the future because you've been a nice guy. But yeah, I don't think everything happens for a reason. Do you? Let me know in the comments if so. The same question. Is it better to speak your mind or keep the peace? And if you speak your mind, you say what is on your mind. You say what you think. Going back to what I said earlier about me avoiding conflict, I will sometimes speak my mind, but if I feel like it's gonna piss someone off and make them angry, meh, what's the point? I prefer to keep the peace and prefer not to get in an argument with someone else. I don't want to fight with people ever. So I'll speak my mind when I think people aren't going to get angry. But if I know there's a chance that somebody's going to get pissed off, I will keep it to myself. Third question. What advice would you give your younger self in hindsight? And in hindsight is a way of saying knowing what I know now. So in hindsight, I would tell my younger self to try to discover what I want to do in my life as early as possible. Because I only realized that I wanted to be my own boss as an English teacher a couple of years ago. And that was when I was in my 30s already. So if I had known all of this in my early 20s, I would have worked much harder to achieve what I'm achieving now, but being younger. So in hindsight, I would tell younger Lewis, figure out what you want to do and reach for the stars. Now, the penultimate question, the fourth question is, do you think success is about talent or putting in the graft? And the graft is the hard work. And it depends. I think everybody needs to have talent to become successful, but it's also about luck of being in the right place at the right time and using what you have and working on it. So if we think about football, we have Messi and Ronaldo. Messi is clearly much more talented than Cristiano Ronaldo. Both of them work very hard, but Cristiano worked so much harder and continues to do so to be able to become successful. So he is a role model in that aspect. I don't like his personality, but you have to respect his hard work because he puts in the graft every single day. So you need to be talented, you need to be lucky, but you also need to put in the hard graft to stay successful in the long run. And now the 50th and last question is, what does a good life mean to you at the end of the day? What does a good life mean to you at the end of the day? I think a good life is being healthy, being happy, having your loved ones around you, friends and family, and not worrying about insignificant little things. And hopefully, if the world is a much happier and peaceful place, then I would have a good life as well. So I think that's it. Healthy and happy. That is a great way of summing up this podcast. And on that note, that's it. That is it for this podcast where I've used more or less 50 different expressions or idioms, answering the questions off the top of my head. I hope you found this useful and I hope you learned a thing or two. If that is the case, make sure you leave a like and follow or subscribe for more. And if you want to continue practicing your English, learning new vocabulary and speaking to me, you can download my brand new application available on the App Store. It's free to download and you can try it all absolutely for free. So a link will be in the description. Check out English with Lewis on the App Store. Thank you so much for watching. Lots of love, and I'll see you next time. Bye.